episode 519 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Tonight I'll be talking about tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite, which featured a match for the AEW Women's Championship. The Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal, and a legend and an icon, Hall of Famer in this wrestling business, announced his retirement will happen next year. All that and more right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Welcome, wrestling fanatics. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Wednesday night episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. I am your host, Lance Brock. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Hope everyone had a great Wednesday today. And I'm a little late saying this, but it's Wednesday night. And you know what that means. It is time to talk about an all-new episode of AEW Dynamite live on TBS that took place tonight. And it was quite the eventful episode that took place tonight. And after I recap Dynamite, I'll try to get into some pro wrestling news going on in the world of pro wrestling. But first, we have AEW Dynamite to talk about tonight. Tonight, Dynamite was live just outside of Houston, Texas. Our commentators tonight, Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, and the Human Suplex Machine, Taz, which we would also be joined in the main event by the AEW World Heavyweight Champion and one half of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, MJF, Maxwell, Jacob, Friedman. And we start things off on Dynamite this week with Penta El Zero Miedo with Alex Hepper, the hype man Alex Hepper Hentez in his corner, taking on representing Bullet Club Gold Switchblade Jay White. And as for an opener for Dynamite this week, I thought this was a very good match. Definitely enjoyed this one. Bullet Club Gold, as always, at ringside. Juice Robinson and the Guns there in the corner of Jay White. Of course, they get involved during the match. And really good match here. Penta and Jay White worked really well together. And it is Jay White getting the win over Penta El Zero Miedo. And I'll give this one 3 out of 5 ring bells. I thought this was a very good match, like I said. Good opener. And Jay White still in possession of the AEW World Championship. The Bang Bang Belt, as he calls it. And definitely, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm definitely enjoying Bullet Club Gold so far. Actually, with Jay White, Juice Robinson, and the Guns, I think they are really one of the top heel factions in AEW right now. And I think Jay White, MJF in the main event of Full Gear for the AEW World Championship will definitely be a strong main event. And maybe they could end up banning Bullet Club Gold from ringside. But who knows? They might be in his corner at the pay-per-view. And we have an AEW Women's World Title Eliminator match at this time with the AEW Women's Champion Hikaru Shida taking on Emi Sakura. And in this match, I thought the commentary did a really good job here putting over that Emi Sakura has and Hikaru Shida have a long history together. Shida getting started in the business, Sakura having a lot to do with that. And really good match here, and it is Shida getting the win. I'll give this one 3 out of 5 ring bells. Very entertaining match, I thought. And definitely Shida, Sakura, two great wrestlers that we have here in AEW. And I thought this was a really good match this week. And Wardlow was in action once again tonight, taking on Hollywood hunk Ryan Nemeth. Of course, this was another just quick, dominating match by Wardlow, defeating Nemeth. And we have Kenny Omega taking on Kyle Fletcher of Aussie Open. And this one I thought was a pretty good match this week. And big fan of Kyle Fletcher, big fan of Aussie Open. I thought this was a really good match. Now that Mark Davis is out with an injury, we see Kyle Fletcher in singles action. And for this match, Don Callis was on commentary. And during the match, he's putting Fletcher over, talking about how great he is. But then after the match, after he loses to Kenny Omega, he flips a switch. And then, just like last week, he buries him. Omega victorious in this one. And the Murder Hawk Monster, Lance Archer, is back on Dynamite. He defeats Baron Brown. And it was been talked about the last couple days quite a bit. Sting addressing the fans. And, well, the rumors were right, even though it's not happening now. Sting in the ring talked about his whole career, talked about Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Lex Luger, the Steiner brothers, even Buff Bagwell. And he announced that he is retiring, but at Revolution 2024. So in just a few months or so is going to be the retirement of the icon Sting. Who knows what his last match is going to be, who he's going to work with in his last match. Will it be a singles match? Will it be possibly a tag team match, some kind with Darby? So we'll just have to wait and see till Revolution. Usually in March, I believe. I don't know, unless maybe they move Revolution next year, since they are going to monthly pay-per-views soon. But we will just have to wait and see. And before I continue, I just want to talk about, I have watched pro wrestling my whole life, just about as long as I can remember. And yes, I know some people, when they talk about their favorite pro wrestler of all time, a lot of people say Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, Bret the Hitman Hart, The Undertaker, which, of course, The Undertaker definitely on my list. And actually, all of those guys are probably somewhere on my list of favorite wrestlers of all time. But out of everybody, as long as I have watched pro wrestling my whole life, I'd say definitely my first favorite wrestler, and still my favorite pro wrestler of all time, as of right now, has always been Sting. I don't know if Sting actually wasn't the first match I have ever seen, or if he ever, but definitely one of the first wrestlers I have ever seen. I don't even remember how old I was when I first started watching Sting. I just remember very young. And I have watched Sting, WCW, the Surfer Sting, the Crow Sting, of course, NWO Wolfpack Sting. Then even the appearances after WCW, when he made appearances for World Wrestling All-Stars. And then, of course, his time in TNA/Impact Wrestling. And then his brief stint, or brief run, I guess you could call it, in WWE, which unfortunately didn't really go too well. He had a great match with Seth Rollins, which unfortunately the injury there. But then after that, he returned to AEW at the first Winter Is Coming, has been in AEW since, and will be 4 years. 4 years, I believe, he has spent in AEW and will retire. And I know people talk about, especially at the end of WCW and TNA, how they would bring in guys just because they were somewhere else, just because they were big somewhere else. And guys that were in WWF/WWE, they would bring them in, especially TNA at one time. They would bring those WWE guys in and put them over their own homegrown talent. And I'm sure some people groaned when they brought Sting into AEW. Oh, he's 64, and oh, he's gonna bury talent. But that's one thing that you can never say about Sting. Some guys might do that. They might bury the younger talent, but not Sting. And since he has been in AEW, he don't even appear every week. And the one thing Sting has done in AEW, and that is help get Darby Allin over. And you definitely cannot say that he's buried Darby Allin. He has not taken the spotlight from Darby. He has definitely been there helping Darby Allin, help making him a bigger star. And I just wanted to talk about Sting, what he means to me. One of probably my number one favorite pro wrestler of all time. And definitely gonna miss seeing Sting on TV every week. And definitely, I just wanted to talk about Sting real quick. Now back to AEW Dynamite for tonight and the main event. But first, I forgot one thing to talk about. We had the sit-down interview in the back. Good old JR Jim Ross with Nick Wayne and his mother, talking about how Nick Wayne betrayed Darby Allin at Wrestle Dream, helping Christian Cage. And I thought Nick Wayne definitely a heel here tonight, being very rude and disrespectful to his mother, disrespecting his father, Buddy Wayne, and Christian Cage getting involved as well. Really good interview here, and definitely making Nick Wayne someone that you want to hate as the heel here in this angle. And Christian Cage and Nick Wayne leave, and then there is a bunch of commotion going on the other side of the door, and the door opens and we see Darby Allin attack Christian Cage and Nick Wayne in the back, throwing Nick Wayne into a guardrail that was set up in the back. And definitely haven't seen the last of this. I don't know if this is going to lead to another tag team match, Darby and Sting taking on Christian Cage and Nick Wayne, or I'm sure Adam Copeland will be involved somehow. Maybe a trios match with the Six. We'll just have to wait and see. And now time for the main event. The AEW World Champion MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman on commentary. And it is the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal to see who will face MJF for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. The only superstar in AEW history to win the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And this Battle Royal, pretty good, I thought. Good main event. And it is won by Rock Hard Juice Robinson. Wasn't really a big surprise here, as MJF facing Jay White at Full Gear. Now he's taking on Juice Robinson for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, which I think will be a very good match. I see MJF winning this one to keep possession of the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and then take on Jay White at Full Gear for the AEW World Championship. And that was tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. And overall, I thought it was a really good show. I definitely enjoyed it tonight. Had some really good wrestling. on the broadcast. And looking forward to Full Gear coming up, which is on a Saturday. Actually, I gotta check. I might have seen already, but not sure what they'll be doing with Collision, since Full Gear is on a Saturday night. Maybe it could be airing on a different night, but we'll have to wait and see. I'll have to check on that. But very good episode of Dynamite tonight. I'll give it 8 out of 10 ring bells overall as a show. And now let's talk a little bit of news. And this has been talked about for a little bit. The lawsuit with WWE and Panini over the trading cards. Something about WWE wanting out of their deal and Panini being upset by that and suing them. And not too sure about it, but I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to Pollock and Thurston. Post Wrestling, John Pollock, of course, from Post Wrestling, and Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but they have a new episode of Pollock and Thurston available on all the Post Wrestling feeds. Wherever you listen to Post Wrestling, definitely recommend listening to that. I know I am going to. I'm sure that is a great podcast. And Impact Wrestling has added a couple matches to the Turning Point Impact Plus special, which will take place in the UK as they return. The Motor City Machine Guns will be taking on the most professional wrestling gods, Moose and Brian Myers. Also, Jordan Grace will be taking on Danny Luna of Subculture. And that'll be a special for Impact Plus. And Sammy Guevara provided a kind of an injury update and says that he is not cleared as of right now, but he is feeling better. So that's some good news there. Hopefully Sammy will be back soon. Of course, not on Dynamite tonight. And more quick Impact news real quick. Eddie Edwards will face Will Ospreay at Turning Point. That should be a great match as well. And Jonathan Gresham is set to make his debut for All Japan Pro Wrestling. Tangaloa vs. David Finlay will take place at NJPW Power Struggle. And I think that is about all the news I have for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, or if you want to leave your feedback and opinions on tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite, you can also leave your predictions for Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory this Saturday night on pay-per-view. Remember all the social media stuff, Instagram, X, Twitter, I don't know, at 360 Wrestling Pod, Facebook, not updated very often at all, but maybe soon I'll start updating it again, but you can go like the page anyway, 360 Wrestling Podcast email 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com anytime. And Saturday programming note, I've been talking about this all week. Hope to do a live episode talking about Impact's Bound for Glory. Again, not sure what time I will be, because not only is it Bound for Glory, is it AEW Saturday Collision, but also after Collision is AEW Battle of the Belts on TNT. So got a total of 6 hours of pro wrestling this Saturday night. So my plan is to watch Bound for Glory live, record Collision, record Battle of the Belts, watch both of them right after Bound for Glory, and then as soon as I finish them, we'll go live for 360 Wrestling Fanatic right here on Spreaker or wherever you listen to 360 Wrestling Podcasts. So again, not sure what time that will be, but stay tuned. And hopefully tomorrow we'll have a new episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic talking about the go-home episode of Impact Wrestling before Bound for Glory and Ring of Honor on Honor Club. But I will be here, right here, tomorrow morning for the Thursday episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. And I know I'm talking fast, or at least trying to talk real fast, maybe do my best Excalibur impression, but thank you once again for tuning in. I am Lance Brock, and I will talk to everyone tomorrow morning on GMWF. But until then, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.